Before we begin, thank you very much to My Existence Is Not Political for joining the Patreon campaign. This comes from a trans member of my community, and they are entirely right. Their existence and who they are should not be political, is not political. I have a strict no politics policy in my comment section and on my channel, and frankly, I've had to block a lot of people for it. I don't care. This is a safe space, and if you don't like that, you are free to leave this space. And if you make noise about it, I will force you out of this space. Okay? Are we clear on that? Treat people right. Don't presume things about them just because they're not like you. So, let's get on to the topic for the day. Thank you very much for the support. It helps me out a lot. So, today I'm going to talk about something that we don't get anymore, which is one of the fan votes that we had for Transformers back in the day. I miss this. I miss having a small say in what was about to happen in the Transformers toy line. It was fun. It made you feel involved. It made you feel like Hasbro was listening. Wasn't that refreshing? So they did a vote where we could choose the next Prime. So prior to this, we actually had fan votes for Windblade and all the million things that you could choose for this upcoming Transformers toy. You basically just got to help co-design an entire Transformer. When it came to the next one, it was color scheme, molds, and characters for creating the first all-female combiner. When it came to Power of the Primes, the vote was, very much more ambiguous of we get to choose the next Prime. We didn't know it at the time, but the toy line coming up was all about primes. It was all about matrices and matrix cores, and characters would have matrix cores who never wielded the matrix before. Predaking had a matrix, because why not in this toy line? So we got to choose a prime, which essentially meant we got to choose a very prominent toy for the Power of the Primes toy line. Now, at the end of the day, Optimal Optimus won, and I do think that's the right choice overall because it is a very prominent leader character who is never acknowledged as one of the actual primes. So to actually give him, a turn with the Matrix and to work him into the current toy line wasn't a bad call. To be fair, with the Evolution toy line that was going on with the leader classes in Power of the Primes, makes total sense for a character who could integrate into that. I don't believe the integration was all that great, but I will acknowledge that, it made sense. It was the one that made the most sense. To the point where I would almost claim that there was some kind of rigging going on when it came to that vote. Just because keep in mind, it was only 7 months after Primal won the vote that his toy was revealed. So it feels like they might have already had that one cooking for the Evolution gimmick, and since he won the vote, he just got to have a Matrix included in the figure. Willing to bet that's how it worked. With how long toy production takes, that feels like the right time frame. If they started designing from the ground up, that would have been a little rushed. Granted, I think the toy feels a little rushed, but it's beside the point. But that's not what today is about. It's not about the eventual winner. It's about the contest and the vote itself. So we had 3 brackets of 3 characters to choose the next Prime, representing honor, order, and chaos. And there's some interesting names in this, including one that's technically not a name. So let's just kind of go through this and just kind of go back and take a look at what they were trying to do with this, because everyone was pleading their cases, essentially, for why they should be selected as the next Prime. Starting with Ultra Magnus. Now, they all had some kind of pledge as to what they're going to do for the leader, but for the honor side of this, the overall idea was, these legendary warriors will lead with honor and carry on the noble legacy of Optimus Prime. So 3 that would carry on Prime's ambitions and ideals. For Ultra Magnus, the pledge was, Ultra Magnus has sworn to honor his forefathers and wield the matrix of leadership with a sense of duty, justice, and honor worthy of their sacrifice. And, keep in mind, this is Ultra Magnus who never felt he was worthy of the matrix in the first place. So now hearing him dedicate himself to that, That is a little bit odd. It's a little bit off. Also, it's a very obvious choice, isn't it? Because Ultra Magnus is technically a Matrix bearer. He is, it's a very short term. It's like less than a day he was leader of the Autobots, but he was. I actually think it plays in nicely in all this. There is a interview out with like one of the original, like director or animator, one or the other. But someone actually talked about that scene in the movie where he put the Matrix in, because you could see it fit, and then his hands went back up to like readjust it. And it looked like an animation error, but according to them, it's actually correct because the Matrix doesn't fit, and he's trying to get it to actually fit when he puts it in. Interesting little detail to add to Ultra Magnus. He's one of those where, like, I don't think he's very different than what we saw as leader. We've seen him as leader. So if he were to have been the Matrix bearer we picked, I don't necessarily think he would have changed. I think he just would have had a Matrix accessory with him. The other two are more interesting, though. RC. Now, keep in mind, this is post-IDW 1.0 RC, where she was very prominent and a very strong character. So it wasn't out of the realm of possibility that this would actually happen. This is late 2016, early 2017. So this is when RC was in IDW 2.0, when she was more of like still a very serious and tough character, but more motherly aspects. She was much more family oriented in that run of books. Her prime pledge was, RC has witnessed the damage done by war. She vows to leave her warrior past behind and embrace a future of unity. RC as a Matrix bearer would have been interesting because, like, for starters, it's hard to get RC's toys to even work for RC, let alone to also work a Matrix into her. It probably would have led to, the very least, the first Voyager class RC toy. Like, she would have had to have been a bigger figure in order to make that work. You wouldn't do it as a deluxe. Even the tiny Matrix that we have right now wouldn't have worked. And to do one for Power of the Primes, it would have to be a separate accessory. It'd have to be an RC that just has a separate accessory. Like, I don't think it would, like, at deluxe size, it wouldn't fit inside her. You need to be at least Voyager. So that would have been a completely reimagined RC Prime. Like, that would have changed things dramatically. And I would be completely down for that. Remember, I'm the guy who says RC needs a complete overhaul so she can have toys that actually work, rather than trying to get these, incredibly feminine curves with almost no vehicle kibble whatsoever to actually work as a transformer without having a massive backpack. I'm all for an RC redesign, akin to like what Animated did, so we can have more proper RC figures. This might have been a good way of getting one. I kind of lament that this wasn't a choice, because this would have been interesting, if anything. Of all of the ones in this vote, I think Hound is the one that made us scratch our heads the most. Hound is not the most prominent of characters in G1. He's one of those who never really had an episode devoted to him. He just had good moments in episodes here and there. He's the character who was supposed to be Spike's friend on Earth, and then Bumblebee ate his lunch and continued to do so for the next 40 years. The Prime Pledge. Hound looks to forge his legacy on a single straightforward vow: protect all living beings on Cybertron from tyranny. Alright, so very much following in the Optimus Prime ideology. Given him being a more militaristic character, but he's not like super serious in most fictions. Like, he's still kind of fun-loving. And you kind of have to be a little bit fun-loving and a little bit mischievous to work his like hologram gimmicks. Like, that just kind of fits for a character like that. Take this someone who is a chaotic illusionist mage in Dungeons and Dragons. I think this is the one where I scratch my head the most. Like, on the one hand, I can't really see Hound ever wielding the Matrix, because he's never really shown signs of leadership. But at the same time, there's so many military vehicles that you could have upsized Hound to. Instead of being stuck as a Jeep, you imagine a Voyager Hound who's like a full Humvee, or, like an even larger one that's like a full, military, like missile truck or something. You could upscale him. There's so many options to upscale Hound into something really, really cool to make a Hound Prime. Like, that would have been, that's the coolest part about it. Similar to RC, I think the coolest part about this idea is the toy it would have required. Like, that would have been awesome. Like, the character himself, I don't even know how he would work as a Prime, if I'm being completely honest with you. That one is like I said, that was the biggest head scratcher out of the entire thing, was why Hound? Why Hound randomly gets something? The next category was Order. And this is, again, coming from D&D. Remember, there is such a thing as lawful evil, which is why we're going to look at Megatron and Shockwave for this one. Because you can follow a strict code and follow strict laws while still being very malicious while you do it. These commanders vow to leave the Autobots and Decepticon factions in the past and unite Cybertron under a new order. So we're dealing with the Megatron here, who's just kind of sick of the war itself, and it's essentially time to just start anew. The pledge here is tired of the war between the Autobots and Decepticons. Megatron stakes his claim on a final act of destruction, tear down the old system and usher in a new era of unity under his rule. It is a peace through tyranny approach, and it is very Megatron. Keep in mind, again, we're in IDW 2.0, where he's leading the Ascenticons and trying to overthrow what he views as a corrupt government. And it kind of is. So if this was 1.0 IDW, this would be even more curious because we'd be dealing with Autobot Megatron, and now you can make a case for maybe he would wield a Matrix. We saw him try to. He doesn't believe he's worthy of it, no matter how much good he has done since reforming. Understandable. His whole story is he can't be reformed, but that doesn't mean he shouldn't try. That said, yeah, Megatron with a Matrix is weird. Now, weirdly enough, around the same time we saw that in Cyberverse. You know, Megatron actually did claim a Matrix of his own. But that's when the Matrix was basically used as an alternate blaster you store in your chest. So, not the most thrilling type of Matrix in that depiction. Shockwave is another one that's a super weird choice to wield the Matrix. Let's see here. Shockwave declares that Cybertron can only be saved through the creation of a strict order, and only he is brilliant enough to be the mastermind behind it all. So we have very much a comic book style Shockwave gunning for the Matrix on this one. Now, a Shockwave Prime at least sounds like a curious idea, that someone of complete logic but also cruelty could also wield the Matrix of leadership in any capacity. You know, when someone with that much logic has access to that much wisdom, now your logic is extremely different from what it used to be. You know, you're not just dealing with your own personal perceptions. You're dealing with the perceptions of, 10 million years worth of accumulated wisdom. That's a lot. That is a lot. The weird thing is, if you take, some of the comic book depictions of Shockwave where he started off as a senator who was an Autobot, who wasn't a villainous Decepticon until his emotions got stripped, you might have actually had something interesting there. What happens to a completely logical creature who now has so much wisdom tapped, at their disposal? What does it do to Shockwave mentally? And does it actually make for what might actually be a pretty good leader who who has a ton of logic behind their actions, but it's tempered by millions of years worth of wisdom? And maybe it doesn't come out to the same cruelty we know Shockwave for. That might be a curious story. But then again, we never get those stories. So, I'm just fanficking at this point. But it sounds fun. It's an intriguing idea. Here's the most obvious one on the list. So, Starsaber, yeah. Fantastic lead character. Weird that he would, be under the guise of Order. I could see, especially if this is got a little tint of the IDW Starsaber in it. Yeah, but to leave Autobot and Decepticon behind to unite Cybertron under a new order, I don't see that as a Starsaber thing. He's very, very Autobot. See, a valiant champion of peace, Starsaber vows to wield his mighty sword as a servant of hope who will fight for the good of all Transformers robots. That really does sound like you were supposed to be in the honor category. But they wanted this like very strict 3 per category thing, so you are stuck here in order for some reason. But yeah, he's exceptionally obvious, and like a Star Saber Prime, I guess Saber Prime would sound cooler. I just like the idea of Saber Prime. That sounds cool. This one, like, yeah, it's just, he's very obvious. He's a very obvious that he would be like a really good leader character to wield the Matrix. And like a lot of these, like Megatron, I wouldn't see like changing or evolving with the Matrix. Shockwave, maybe that would justify him being a spaceship instead of a gun. No, Starsaber kind of be like a Magnus type, where like he's already incredibly powerful. You know, like the Matrix wouldn't evolve him into something capable of like storing that much power. He would just kind of be Starsaber. He would just have a Matrix where there's supposed to be a Brain Master. I mean, that was my vote. I mean, obviously. That leaves Chaos as our third and final category. These powerful warlords will stop at nothing to become supreme leader of Cybertron, even if it means creating a chaotic world where only the strongest survive. This is going to make sense for 2 of the 3. Once again, I think we're a little bit mixed up here. Thunderwing is interesting because he has also wielded the Matrix before. In the Marvel Comics, he had control of the Creation Matrix for a hot minute. So a brand new Thunderwing toy that comes with a Matrix would make total sense. And frankly, he would have worked in with the Evolutions gimmick. Because if you go by the Mega Pretender he was, it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? You just have this extra ship that turns into his body. You have this little ship that turns into a robot, then folds up Power Master Prime style, slots into the big body. Boom, you have Thunderwing with an evolution gimmick that still plays homage to his Pretender toy. Everything works, and everything is great. Why don't we have that? Why don't we have that toy? Why has Thunderwing never gotten a good toy in like 10 years? I didn't even think the one toy he got was good. Born with a unique spark that gives him a mysterious connection to the Matrix of leadership, Thunderwing vows to use his ability to unleash unknown powers that lay dormant within the Matrix of leadership. We've seen him with the Matrix. We know how he would be. Chaotic and conquering. This one confused me. Why are you in Chaos? Just because you're a beast? That seems just like a little bit judgmental. Let's see. Optimus Primal heralds the coming of a new age of beasts. Those who follow him know he will keep fighting no matter how big the odds are against him. Yeah, like he really is just he is an Optimus. Like he wouldn't belong. He doesn't, like, going back to like the quote for the Chaos side, like, even if it means creating a chaotic world, only the strongest survive. You're just saying that because he's a beast mode. Just because he has a beast mode, because he turns into a monkey, you're just lumping him into Chaos. This one made no sense whatsoever. I mean, perfect choice. Obviously he won, so yeah, great choice, but yeah, this was just a really weird placement. Yeah, like, the more I look at it, the more I think, like, yeah, this whole, like, 3 category thing that they did is a really stupid idea. It's a really stupid idea. But that will bring us to the one that was the most interesting, because he was labeled as unknown evil. He was only shown in silhouette. Yes, it's Deathsaurus. Yes, we know. It was revealed as Deathsaurus at the end of the vote. But that said, like, for whatever reason, they were being very ominous and mysterious about him. I presume because they still didn't know if they could put a toy named Deathsaurus out into normal stores. This merciless agent of chaos will send the universe spiraling toward an unknown and unforeseen fate. Cybertron will be reborn in the image of this powerful dictator. We knew who it was, so of course he was going to get a lot of votes. This is another character where he's already got a lot of chest gimmicks, just like Starsaber, so, like, lumping a Matrix in with him too would be weird. Again, I don't foresee an evolution like I do Hound, but, this one, again, He just seems like he'd be powerful enough to wield it without that. Yeah, it would just be Death Source with a Matrix chamber, and like that would be it. And would have been cool to get a Death Source toy out of nowhere, but maybe good that, you know, that was the thing. And this is the thing that kind of hurt this vote. And this kind of bled over into the final four. So the way that this worked was everyone who got the most votes in each category made it to the final round, and then whoever got the most votes in second place in one of those categories got to be the wild card. So as you can see, we ended up with, you know, pretty much the most obvious choices that you could make. I mean, I will admit, I'm a little bit disappointed. I'm a little bit disappointed that as curious as like Pound Prime and RC Prime would have been, we didn't go for that. You know, we went for like the lowest common denominator here. Ultra Magnus, Optimus Primal, Star Saber, and then Unknown Evil. But because Star Saber and Unknown Evil both made it into the final round, they ate each other's lunch. And I know I keep using that expression. I don't know why I like that expression so much. But yeah, basically they ate each other's votes. You know, Victory fans got split between the two. So we missed out on an opportunity here, like where this could have been a far better story. Like imagine if it was Star Saber who ended up winning the vote. Imagine if like Unknown Evil was left off and Victory fans like me could have just had Star Saber to vote for, and he might have won the whole thing. He might have won the whole thing, which means in the Power of the Prime cartoon, you know, like you know, it's Star Saber who's waiting for the rest, you know, rather than Optimus Primal voiced by Ron Perlman for what was turned out to be the first time in the role for the guy. So yeah, I think we missed out on really cool stuff. The Primal we got is fine. But man, I miss things like this. Like this was fun. This was chaotic. This was kind of exciting to think that like we could have just had like a completely out of nowhere new Prime pop up, or like a classic character that's never had a US toy that now has an opportunity to actually get produced. I think I just went with Primal because guess what? Most of the time when Hasbro puts Beast characters into a vote, they tend to win because Beast Wars fans are fanatic, understandably so. I hope they do things like this again. This was such great community outreach. This made you feel connected to the brand. This made you feel like you got to contribute something. And it was fun just to see who would win. It's engagement, you know, that's so important in a brand like this. It's so fan-centric. So no Hound Prime, no Shockwave Prime. No, just Optimal. No big surprise. But it was fun. It was fun. It's fun to look back on to see how they actually tried to convince people, yeah, you know, go ahead, vote for Thunderwing. See what happens. But hopefully we get stuff like this again. I really do miss stuff like this. So that's been your brief history lesson for the day. I just thought I'd go over and just like a little reminder of just how much they put into this back in the day. You know, it was fun. So that's it for the day. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.